My fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over. Our Constitution works. Our great republic is a government of laws and not of men. Here, the people rule.
It's baggy hi-fi. Actually, no, it's Whack-A-Mole 2020 Election Edition. Hey, it's Mazzy here. This is the Whack-A-Mole 2020 Election Edition. Warning up front, there is some political content here. Opinions from this person right here, talking about myself in the third person. I'm not going to talk about candidates, who you voted for, who you hate, who you love, all that. Just want to say one thing. With this election that we just had, and it's they're still counting votes. Count all the votes. There's a bunch of talk, including from one of the candidates, that they should stop the counting, stop the election. I've won. That's what a dictator says. That's not what democracy is all about. People don't seem to pay attention about mail-in voting. I've been mail voting for at least 15 years. California, it's been available. You can request an absentee ballot. Anybody can. It's safe. These election officials count them officially. There's no massive voter fraud. That's a fallacy. And if you're believing that shit about voter fraud and votes coming from dead people, the number of votes is minuscule. Both Republican, Independent, Democrat organizations have found that you might have a few hundred here and there in the grand scheme of things. In one state, Wisconsin, that Biden won already, he won by 20,000 votes. There's a lawsuit now. They want to stop the vote. Well, they already counted those votes. Last time Trump won by 20,000 votes. Right now, so far, I know I've been wrong with my guesstimate. I thought Biden would get 320 electoral college votes. I am wrong. However, right now, as of this taping, Biden's up about 3.5 million popular votes. Now, we know in America the popular vote is not how you win an election. But Biden has now got more votes than any other presidential candidate in the history of our country. So 3.5 million so far more votes, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, we just need to count these votes, no matter how long it takes. And the reason why there was a dump all of a sudden overnight the other night where Biden, his votes increased by 200,000, is because that's them counting the mail-in votes. And this was a Republican idea. Republican organizations, they mandated a law that mail-in votes could not be counted until Election Day. They couldn't even start pre-opening them before as they arrived, which would have saved time. So they're taking time. So the first votes you saw on election night were votes counted and votes cast that day in person. And now we're seeing all these mail-in votes. And the reason the majority of them seem to be, not all, seem to be for blue, voting blue, is because Mr. Trump kept telling everyone that it's fraud, mail-in votes is bad. So a lot of Republicans didn't vote in mail, use mail-in votes, and mostly Democrats did, because we know it's safe. It's a real deal. So, that's why these votes are taking a long time. Anyway, enough of that. We'll see how things go. But voting by mail is a legitimate, real deal. There's no voter fraud going on now. It's so minuscule, it wouldn't change the votes in this case. But things are very close in America between the two candidates. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do 20. Since we're 2020, 20 whack-a-moles. That's a lot of whack-a-mole. That's a lot for me to to regurgitate out of my mind in one standing here. So let's do it. 20. One. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. How about some jazz? 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. How about some Beatles? 16. 17. Dropping shit. 18. 2 more. We'll do a double. 20. Brewer and Shipley. This is, I can't remember if it's their third or second album on Kama Sutra Records. The claim to fame, the song that we all know is One Toke Over the Line, Sweet Jesus, One Toke Over the Line. Great song around 1971, I believe, give or take. This is not that album. This is Shake Off the Demon, recorded in San Francisco, as I recall. Mark Knopfler's on it, John Kahn. John Cipollina from the Quicksilver Messengers plays guitar on this. Drums, Spencer Dryden from the Airplane. Jersen Airplane, and David LaFlame on electric violin from White Bird on the Golden Gate. There you go. So, management, Good Karma Productions. Folk rock duo, really great harmonies. I pick these albums cheap whenever I see them because they're really, really good. If you like folk rock music, early 70s singer-songwriter, excellent records. Excellent. In Sound from Way Out. This is a sort of this is a Beastie Boys project that they did. It's sort of lounge, modern space age jazz, very kind of in the late 50s, 60s realm of music. Some hip hop attributes, tape loops put on, but it's got really kind of a nice, like a cocktail sounds. Les Beastie Boys, the French New Wave of pop music. Un sentiment qui va très bien ensemble, très bien ensemble. Beastie Boys. I just showed this in another video. Paul McCartney's New from 2016 or so. 2013, I guess. God, my time just keeps going by. I like this record. I don't love it. It's not one of my favorites. I like Electronic Arguments better. I like Memory Almost Full better. Beautiful cover. I like the packaging. I think it's really nice, really modern. A lot of words. Paul McCartney, what can I say? The problem I have with this record mostly is too many cooks. He has a lot of different producers on it. It's not one vision of Paul and one producer doing records together. Percy Thrills Thrillington. Now, this is an album that came out on Capitol Records in 1977. I have several copies of this. This one's a sealed copy with my Record Factory Store 598 sticker still on it. This is an instrumental album covering the entire Ram album. So it's very, you know, trad jazz type versions of Paul McCartney, instrumental. Here you go. Paul McCartney's definitely involved with it, but it's a whole different orchestral version of it. Novelty record in a way, but kind of a fun record. It was reissued during the Ram period on vinyl, so you probably still can get it. It's a fun record. not a necessity, but fun from the Beatle Wall. The Lost Lennon Tapes, Volume 4. Yoko did a series that was on radio of the Lost Lennon Tapes that was syndicated through radio stations, and after John died. And this is a bootleg. I have something like 13 volumes. Volume 4, Cleanup Time, Everybody Had a Hard Year, Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, Attica State, Luck of the Irish, John Sinclair. So it's a variety of Lennon outtakes, alternate versions of songs and unreleased material. Raymond Scott Jazz Workshop. Raymond Scott, I did a whole feature video on. He's someone who delved into like an inventor, electronic musician, sort of big band, orchestral leader as well, composer. Did some electronic works, did baby albums of newborn electronic works for newborn babies with the sort of the Dr. Seuss Institute, is it Gazelle Institute, I think, for newborns, music you play to soothe your baby. He also did a lot. There's one of his most famous pieces used for animation and cartoons, including into the 90s and 2000s with Ren and Stimpy and the like. He also did a lot of American TV and radio jingles in the late 50s and the 60s. And this was a record store day, I believe, or Modern Harmonic, which is a offshoot label of Sundazed that has kind of weird avant-garde things. And this is great, like Ham's beer commercials. And he arranges, and his wife at the time was one of the singers that sings some of the tunes and tones. So they're like Go Greyhound, Leaving the Drive Into Us. You've heard that if you're of a certain age. Super Cheer Detergent, Procter & Gamble's. Ice Cream, Hotels. Really this is a fun record. Anybody who likes something a little offbeat, different, kind of kitschy, Raymond Scott is it. The Jingle Workshop, Mid-Century Musical Miniatures, 1951 to 1965. It's getting to be a cool whack-a-mole. Now, one of the great white, like rock and roll, jazzy drummers of the 60s was Gene Krupa. Everybody of a certain age knows Gene Krupa. He was like, he'd lead these bands and do this rock and roll pop stuff. This is on Verve, the Clef series, supervised by Norman Granz, of course. This is 1960, so obviously this is the pre-Beatle period, that pre-rock and roll, but obviously the whole thing with Elvis Presley and Bill Haley, Collins, Little Richard. Rock and roll was happening, and this was the Drum King, and a lot of great footage on YouTube of him playing the drums, and just a fun cover. The exciting Gene Krupa, one of the great rock, jazzy, pop drummers of the day. From the Jazz Wall, Duke Ellington Jazz Violin Sessions with Sven Amundsen, Stefan Grappelli, Ray Nance, and Billy Strayhorn, of course, who played for years and composed for years with Duke Ellington, one of the great, probably the great father of jazz music. Amazing artist. Everyone needs some Duke Ellington in their collection. I did see back in the 70s Stefan Grappelli, who did some collaborations with modern artists as well. But you may know that he was the one with the Hot Club of France that played with one of my favorite guitar players, Django Reinhardt. And so great kind of gypsy jazz music too. But this is sort of a great, has some standards on it, like Take the A Train, the Billy Strayhorn composition, In a Sentimental Mood, the Duke Ellington composition, don't get around much anymore, another Duke Ellington composition. And just great jazz pop in a way, but the violin really makes this record a strong record. Atlantic Records, 1976, produced by Duke Ellington. One of the great out there Miles Davis records, promo I got back in the 70s, and this is Agartha. I'm putting an extra H in there, promo copy. It's, it follows along the line with Bitches Brew, On the Corner, where it's rockin', jammin'. They do the theme from Jack Johnson, which he had done a whole album on. And this is recorded live in Japan in 1975 with Miles, obviously, Sonny Fortune, Michael Henderson on Fender bass, Pete Cosby on guitar, Al Foster on drums, Reggie Lucas guitar, Matume Conga. So it's got more of the funky, percussive side and soulful side of musicians rather than the straight jazz players, people that intertwined between jazz and soul and funk music. And a pretty great record. Probably not for the uninitiative who's not into this period of Miles, but if you're like getting into the whole Bitches Brew thing now, this is a little more drive and a little more out there. And also about out there and the spiritual jazz. This is a cool collection. These are from cassettes from Alice Coltrane from the from that. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Turiya Satangi Ganga Da. No. This is sort of the spiritual language, a spiritual retreat. She was involved with Alice Coltrane, of course, married John Coltrane, father of Ravi Coltrane. And this has vocals, very Krishna, very religious based, very spiritual, and it's really a gorgeous record. And if you're into the Indian spirituality and some of the out there jazz, although it's more to the spiritual side of chanting in a way than out there jazz. So I think it's accessible, but of course I like this kind of stuff and might not be for everybody, but this was a reissue that came out a couple of years ago, or an issue of those tapes. I don't think it had been released before. This is on Luca Bop 2017. Of course, Luca Bop is the record label from David Byrne that has a lot of world music. Highly recommended if you want something a little off. Now, you're not going to get fooled again with this one. The Who's Next. Great cover picture by Ethan Russell, a photographer who did the last Beatles session, like Hey Jude cover, Rolling Stones tour in '72. Look, I'm not going to say any more about The Who. Every edition of the TV show CSI has a song, starts out with a song from one of these albums. CSI Vegas, CSI Miami, CSI New York. Nakedness, nakedness, nakedness. I've told stories about this version of Electric Ladyland. This is my original track records version I bought on New Year's Eve, 68, 69, New Year's Eve day. So I was 14 years old sneaking this record in the house. And of course, this is my favorite Jimi Hendrix record. Jimmy didn't like this cover, I thought, which I kind of applaud him for that. I do have a reprise with the close-up of an out-of-focus head. But this is kind of a cool record to have. And again, it's my favorite. What a great album, Electric Ladyland, 1968. 20 is a lot of records to go through, isn't it? Oh, the J. Giles band. J. Giles, Magic Dick. Magic Dick. What are the great harp players? Bluesy, soulful, rock, and party records that played with J. Giles. And of course, Peter Wolf, a great vocalist. I like them. I like Monkey Island, which is a 1977-78 record. It's not one of their most popular records, but I love the album Monkey Island. This is a really good record too, and I never show this kind of stuff. In fact, I haven't played this in a while. But East Coast, are they from Philly? I can't even remember. It seems to me they're from Philly. But J. Giles band was a great, I saw him once come through Winterland in San Francisco. Just a great party, rock and roll, joyous band, J. Giles band. And this is from, this is a Canadian pressing, and I'm thinking this is 75 or 71. I'm way off there. I didn't get this till years later, but I had heard it when I worked in record stores. Emmylou Harris and the Nash Ramblers. This is live at the Ryman Theater in Nashville. The cover image is from the Hatch poster collection. Hatch is the printing, I don't know if they're still in, I think they're still in the building with the Ryman Theater. I could be wrong. Those of you in Nashville will be able to remind me. But I have a book on and a large print from Hatch Show. They did these great screened posters of shows at the Nashville. They've used them for other album covers as well. And you know their work. Once you see this, Google Hatch Show posters, Hatch posters. Great record. Emmylou Harris, to me, can do no wrong. I just love everything she does. Here we come. Strange Ways, Here We Come, the Smiths. Not one of their greatest records. I don't even know what to say about it. Is this her last record? I don't know, I'm forgetting. Girlfriend in a Coma, though. Quite more than I think of it. I mean, this is a good Paint a Vulgar Picture. Last Night I Dreamt Somebody Loved Me. Girlfriend in a Coma, though, that's the one. Girlfriend in a Coma, I know. Morrissey, Johnny Marr, and the other two. The bass player and the drummer. I know them, I just forgot. Okay. The Pogues, English band with Irish overtones, the whole pub scene, Irish. I mean, come on, right? This is a great cover. White City, Gridlock. 1989, I think. But the Pogues, again, another band I saw when Ian was sort of pushed out for his drunken attitude. Joe Strummer from the Clash toured with them. I'm not sure if just 1 year, worked with them a bit. But any Pogues record you see, you should get up. Just great English-Irish rock and roll, post-punky Irish music with a great feel to it. Love it. One of the great folk rock records out of San Francisco, the first of the, quote, psychedelic bands as they were getting to be psychedelic. This is more their folk rock record, Jersen Airplane. Sidney Anderson was the lead singer then. This is the year before. This is 1966. Obviously, she would leave. She wanted to have a child, and she left San Francisco. Grace Slick from the Great Society joined, and in 1967, of course, is all over Surrealistic Pillow. This is a wonderful record. Now, there's a mono version. One track was censored somewhat. They dropped it. I forgot why right now. And of course, someone's yelling at me. Why did I forget that? Come Up the Years was a song that was played on the radio a lot. It's a great folk rock song. They do a cover of Tobacco Road and a cover of Let's Get Together, the Chet Powers song that the Youngbloods had the hit with. So Jersen Airplane, this is more folky, folk rock, but the rest of the band's the same. Has a great sound to it. It's not as psychedelic at all, really, but this is the seeds of the San Francisco sound, and they become one of the great San Francisco bands, my favorite of the 60s San Francisco rock bands. Modern Guild, Beck, one of his more upbeat dance records in a way. This is produced by Beck along with Danger Mouse, who worked on the Grey album, which is a combination, Grey market combination of the Beatles' White album and Jay-Z's Black album. Danger Mouse kind of did that whole mashup on that. This is a good record. Orphans, Gamma Ray, Chemtrails, Modern Guilt. It's more of his dance, upbeat stuff. The tracks don't stand out like some of his other records, like Mutations for Me or Odelay, or even the smoother, ethereal two records he did after this. But this is a cool record too. I'm hoping that Vultures comes out, which is his real dance funky record, which, as I said many times here, so I'm repeating myself, that Midnight Vultures is the Prince album that Prince never made. Great record by Beck. And of course, one of the great rock and roll blues guitar players from the South. There's 2 volumes of this. This is volume 2, Duane Allman Anthology, Capricorn Records. Both these volumes to me are must-haves because they take not only records from the Allman Brothers and solo work, but a lot of the R&B stuff he's done. Songs from The Wait, King Curtis. He plays guitar, and he did a lot of session musician. Born to Be Wild, Wilson Pickett version of it. Hourglass, that was the band, his band before they were the Allman Brothers. It's got Herbie Mann, Push Push, Boz Scaggs, Waiting for a Train, which is that Jimmy Rogers, a classic, which is a great song. Sam Sumito is on here, who is Blood Red Riding Hood, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. See, I know my shit. Great Coming to My Kitchen, the great Delaney and Bonnie, who I'm a huge, huge fan of Southern soul music. He's played on so many tracks. It's amazing how he ever slept. Of course, some Allman Brothers live stuff like Midnight Rider, unreleased version of it, Aretha Franklin song on here, and Otis Rush. So any of these Duane Allman anthology records, I highly recommend them. And there's 2 volumes of them. There's some of the greatest comps out of the 1970s. Of course, they wouldn't have made a volume 2 if the volume wasn't so successful. Okay, we're getting down to the wire here. We got one more record. The great, great Leonard Cohen. I already miss him. I love his records. This is Various Positions. I was going to make a joke there, but I don't think I need to. This was originally only a Canadian release. It wasn't released in America. This is that period of time where, you know, Columbia didn't get what he was doing and left him. It eventually came back to Columbia. This was eventually reissued on Columbia Records. This, when you started hearing more of his electronics, dancey sort of rhythms on here. Again, this is 1985, right in the middle of the 80s. So it does have some 80s flourishes, but it works for Leonard Cohen, including Dance Me to the End of Love with those great female vocals. He's used that female vocal background thing since the beginning, since So Long Marianne and songs like that. This is the record that he first debuted his version of Hallelujah. Hallelujah slowly grew in stature, and of course John Cale did a cover of it that got more notice, and then of course we all know the Tim Buckley, the Jeff Buckley, son of Tim Buckley version that became this song, you know, that became this sort of religious religious, iconic, spiritual song that all these religious groups kind of clung on to. Great song. Katie Lang also has a great live version of it. That you can see on YouTube. That's live in Canada, I think in Ontario maybe. But the irony of it, in a way, Hallelujah, as religious as it is, and Leonard Cohen was all like Nick Cage, sang along a lot about spirituality, religion, sexuality, you know, women, angels, all that kind of stuff. They're a lot alike in certain ways. The two of them, a little dirgy sound, little out there to some people, but gorgeous, gorgeous songwriters. And but the irony of Hallelujah, I love it. Well, first of all, I love this line: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fail, the major lift, the baffled king composing Hallelujah. It's great. But then, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof. Her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to a kitchen chair. She broke your throne. She cut your hair. And from your lips, she drew a hallelujah. Such a friggin' song about bondage, right? And it's been sort of taken on by a religious group. So that's the end of the 2020. I should give this one a real number too. We'll see. Maybe I will. 2020 Whack-A-Mole, a long Whack-A-Mole, but there's 20 great albums for you to see. And, you know, every vote counts. You need to count all the votes. There's nothing wrong. We all should be able to vote. We should not limit people's ability to vote. That's been the problem. The more people vote, the better it is for democracy and everyone else. So Whack-a-mole. I hope you enjoyed this edition. Mazzy loves you.